وأرأف من ملك وأجود من أعطى وأوسع من سئل، أنت الفرد لا ند لك، وأنت الله لا شريك لك، كل شيء هالك إلا وجهك، لن تطاع إلا بإذنك، ولن تعصى إلا بعلمك، تطاع فتشكر وتعصى فتغفر، القلوب لك مبقية والسر عندك علانية، الحلال ما أحللت والحرام ما حرمت، والدين ما شرعت والأمر ما قضيت، العبد عبدك والخلق خلقك والأمر أمرك، فأنت الله الرؤوف الرحيم. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز: فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، ملة أبيكم إبراهيم هو سماكم المسلمين. فقال تعالى في مقام آخر: وإذ يرفع إبراهيم القواعد من البيت وإسماعيل ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. وقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أنا دعوة أبي إبراهيم، أو كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. But brothers, sisters, youngsters, and elders, oftentimes, whenever we speak about a society, a community, a group of people that are aiming to put together the infrastructure of an organization, we refer to their resources. That a community is built because there is infrastructure. A society is built because there are resources. A city is built because of the economical opportunities that it opened up for people, hence the world moved there. People travel to that land because now it's a city that has opportunities. It's a city that has resources. It's a city that has a beautiful landscape. We are taught that cities, communities, societies are built upon these elements. That whenever these are present, the communities flourish. And whenever these are absent, the communities slowly lose any form of footing, and they oftentimes are seen to be insignificant. However, when we look back to the historical tradition of our beautiful deen, and we search to find the greatest founder of any community, and the founder Ibrahim alayhi salam, the founder of the greatest city, a city that had no resources, a city that was not attractive because of its landscapes, a city that was not attractive because of economical opportunities, a city that من غير زرع عند بيتك المحرم, a city that had no signs of life, had no signs of vegetation. There was nothing that was there to give to human beings, to animals, to society. But the presence of these people gave that city life. Islam, in this beautiful religion, in the presence of the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, do not depreciate the value of a family. They do not depreciate the value of individuals. They only add value. They only add honor. The Sahabas before the coming of Islam were seen to be individuals that the world had no value of. But the moment they were united with the concept of the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the prophethood of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, they had instantaneous value in the eyes of the world. This man traveled from the beautiful land of Bayt al-Maqdis in Ibrahim alayhi salam, and he is told to leave with his family. And he is not told where to go, but to continue traveling and to continue moving. And his response was always the same. Whenever Allah gave him a command, there was no if, buts, and what about this and what about that option. Aslamtu, there was absolute submission. There was no delay within the fulfillment of Allah's commands. Ibn Qayyim rahimahullah says, one of the biggest differences between a believer and a hypocrite is not the fact that the hypocrite does not fulfill the command. The biggest difference is that there's always a delay in a munafiq doing the deed. And the believer has no delay. The munafiq also prays salats. However, الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنْ صَلَاتِهِمْ سَاهُونَ. The munafiq will also come for the call, whatever it may be. However, وَتَرَبَّصْتُمْ, they delay. And the believers are فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ. There's no glitch in their response to Allah's command. So Allah says, go. And he travels, and he reaches the land, and he is told now in this land where there are no signs of life, to drop his family and to return to Bayt al-Maqdis. Aslam. This seems strange. This looks odd. And people may go to the extent of even saying that, what a deadbeat father, na'udhu billah, to leave his family in a desert. How could one even claim to think of that? When we look at the du'as of Ibrahim, there's not a single du'a or a collection of du'as that we find in the Quran where he does not make du'a for his children. Every single place in the Quran where he is seeking any form of supplication from Allah, his children are included in those du'as. Every moment he was thinking about his children. But the command came to leave his family. And Hajar asked, Allah, is this the command of Allah? And Ibrahim responded in affirming the fact that it's Allah's command. And she responded by saying, إِذَنْ لَنْ يُضَيِّعَنَ اللَّهُ أَبَدًا. If that's the case, Allah will never waste us. Allah will never waste us because we are fulfilling Allah's command. Few in number, only 2 in Ismail and Hajar, and 3 in Ibrahim. Very few in number, but understanding that impact is not relative to resources. Impact is not relative to numbers. Impact is not relative to education. Impact is not relative to any form of those resources. Impact is relative to our submission to Allah's commands. كم من فئة قليلة غلبت فئة كثيرة بإذن الله. How many small groups have been able to have impact that has been felt all across the world? وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ الشُّكُورِ. Being few in number is not a sign of us being weak. Being few in number is a sign of us being gems and pearls. Being strange is quite powerful. It's empowering. They say, what a strange decision that you chose to name your son or daughter a name of a Sahaba. What a strange decision that you chose to wear these clothes. What a strange decision you chose to send your children to an Islamic school where they could go somewhere else. What a strange decision. We say strange? Strange to whose definition of what the norm is? Because we can only identify being a stranger if we agree upon the standard of what the norm is. And the most objective definition in today's time is what is normal. Being strange in today's time, every single person is a stranger to someone else's definition of what the norm is. Because we don't have idols, we have ideologies, we have challenges that come from every different area. But being strange in the eyes of individuals, but being known to Allah is the absolute success story. Leaves his family, though it was a strange decision. And Hajar and Ismail, knowing they're fulfilling Allah's commands, after the resources are completely finished, she doesn't turn to Ibrahim, he's nowhere there. She turns to the one who's always present for us. This city was built on the back of a mother who realized the power of her supplication. Impact is relative to our relationship with Allah. Impact is relative to our ability to make dua in front of Allah when no one is watching. As those mothers and fathers whose children have been sick and they've been told that there's no way to cure them, and they woke up in the middle of the night and made dua for their children, they know what impact is because they experienced that impact. Hajar in the middle of nowhere decides to continue calling towards Allah. But Allah demands from us, not encourages. Allah demands from us that we make an effort. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. The only expectation from us in this world is not that we create results, because we can't create results. The expectation for us is to make a continuous effort. Allah's system rewards us based upon effort, not upon results. ومن أراد الآخرة وسعى لها سعيها وهو مؤمن فأولئك كان سعيهم مشكورا. Allah says your effort is rewarded. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا. Whoever makes a consolidated effort, their efforts are rewarded regardless of the results are there or not. She makes an effort. She starts running and moving from Safa to Marwa. And the Mufassirun speak about this beautiful concept of sa'i. And they comment and they say that could Hajar not have ran from Safa to Marwa and then to another mountain and then to another mountain and then to another mountain, but she continued to go back and forth from the same mountain. To Safa, Marwa, Safa, and Marwa. And they comment and they say that this is a clear sign that regardless of the different changes that are happening around us, our response doesn't change. The consistency of our deen remains the same. We don't avoid changing because of inability. We avoid changing because of stability. We're stable. We're secure in our frame of reference in the paradigm that has been given to us. She could have gone other places, but she understood this is a sa'i. And the definition of a sa'i is to continue doing the exact same thing over and over again until you see your results. That's a sa'i. She never stopped running and moving back and forth until she saw the water coming from the feet of Ismail. And since her form of supplication was so unique, the response was also miraculous. Allah could have sent a cloud with rain. Allah could have sent a traveler with water. But Allah brought water from the earth, telling us in today's time that even in the most dire situations, when no one is there and everyone looks at us to be someone that is strange, when we connect ourselves to Allah, maybe in the most lonely moments, in the most alone moments, in those moments, we also have our Allah with us. We also have our ability to make that dua. And then the water comes, and then Makkah is built. Makkah was built, the most beautiful city. The city that we year to travel to was built on the back of one family that continued to identify that they had one point of reference in life, which was the submission of Allah. Therefore, when Ibrahim comes back, then he tells his son Ismail that I saw in my dream, إِنِّي أَذْبَحُكَ فَانْظُرْ مَاذَا تَرَى, that I was slaughtering you. What do you think of this? This slaughter is not necessarily as simple as slaughtering an animal. It's symbolic to identify that we slaughter all of our desires in front of Allah's commands. That we, in our desires, in anything that our heart is pulling us towards that is contrary to Allah's commands, there is an effort that is needed to be made to continue mitigating those desires, to continue mitigating those pulls and those winds. And as Ismail responds by saying, "If'al ma tu'mar," do as you have been commanded. Allah says, "Falamma aslama," when they both submitted their intellect to Allah. They both submitted their intellect to Allah. They both submitted their minds to Allah, and they allowed their hearts to make their decisions. When someone is in love, they don't use their minds to make decisions. They use their heart to make decisions. And this is why he's Khalil. He didn't choose. He could have, and he did use rational evidences because he asked Allah, how do you bring the dead back to life? But when making decisions, he was in love with Allah. So making a decision came from the heart. It didn't necessarily have to go through the process of funneling itself through the mind and the brain. Aslim, and he submitted. Mecca was built upon the back of a family. In the second greatest city, or equally great, in Madinatul Munawwara, the city that we love to be in a beautiful environment of the Prophet's mosque and his blessed resting place. It was a city before the Prophet's arrival that was known as Yathrib. Yathrib means sickness, flu, disease. That people would avoid traveling to Yathrib because they were afraid that they would fall sick. The Prophet's father passed away in Yathrib. His mother passed away on the way back from Yathrib. It was a place that was known that no one should ever go there because they will become sick and they might actually pass away. And then the Prophet enters the city. لما دخل النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم المدينة أضاء منها كل شيء. The moment he entered, the name of the city changed to Al-Madinatu Al-Munawwara, Al-Madinatu Al-Tayyiba, the purified city, the illuminated city. The name change had nothing to do with physical lights being added. For 7 years in the Prophet's masjid, there was no light. The name change had nothing to do with the landscapes changing. It had nothing to do with economical opportunities being added. The name change was simply because now there were people in this community that were submitting themselves to Allah's commands. This is what Aslim means. The beautiful name of our religion, which was gifted to us by Ibrahim alayhi salam, the definition of which is submission. مِلَّةَ أَبِيكُمْ إِبْرَاهِيمَ هُوَ سَمَّاكُمُ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. We in today's time are aiming to build our families, our communities, our businesses, our institutions. We create visions and missions and different forms of points of reference. At the top of that funnel needs to be, where is Aslim? When do I what is my final point of reference before making a decision? And when we have a consolidated point of reference, difficult decisions become easy because we have one point of reference. And whenever we have conflicting points of reference, simple decisions become difficult. Because now there's too many frames of reference. And that is exactly what we have been pushed to believe, that there's so many points of reference. What is success really like? No, for us, there's one point of reference, which is the submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands. And that is defined for us as success. In today's world, people can argue success till they leave this world. But the moment that we leave this world, no one will argue the definition of success. Because successful are those that have earned Allah's pleasure. Successful are those that have earned the nearness to Allah in the Prophet ﷺ through submitting themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's commands. These communities that we have today were built because of people like that. Submission to Allah's commands above everything else. And these communities, our families, and everyone around us will continue growing and appreciating in our value by adding Allah's commands in our life. Progress is synonymous to success. And no progress is synonymous to stagnancy. And stagnancy is synonymous to failure. They say in business, the greatest growth is retention. Retaining our deeds and then adding more deeds in our life. By doing so, we have added the Ibrahimi code into our life, that we continue submitting ourselves to Allah's commands, regardless of what is happening around us. And just like how the fire of Ibrahim was present, and he was thrown inside of there, and the fire remained there, but he was cool in the fire. The different fitan that are taking place around us, they won't disappear, but hopefully us and our families will be unaffected by them, like how Ibrahim was in the middle of that fire, but never felt the heat of it because he submitted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah make us amongst those people that allow submission to enter into our lives. Allow us to become those that honor the legacy of these great individuals. Allow us to be amongst those that honor the legacy of our own Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alamin. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في كتابه العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم: أرحم أمتي بأمتي أبو بكر، وأشدهم في أمر الله عمر، وأصدقهم حياء عثمان، وأقضاهم علي، وفاطمة سيد نساء أهل الجنة، والحسن والحسين سيدا شباب أهل الجنة رضوان الله تعالى عليهم أجمعين. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين، اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل الشرك والمشركين. اللهم انصر من نصر دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم واجعلنا منهم ومعهم. اللهم اخذل من خذل دين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم ولا تجعلنا منهم ولا معهم. اللهم اشف مرضانا وعاف مبتلانا وارحم موتانا وارحم موتانا انك حق على كل شيء قدير. اللهم انصر المسلمين المظلومين المستضعفين من كان حيث كان. آمين 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 يا رب العالمين. إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. أقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله استغفرك
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أفلا ينظرون إلى الإبل كيف خلقت وإلى السماء كيف رفعت وإلى الجبال كيف نصبت وإلى الأرض كيف سطحت فذكر إنما أنت مذكر لست عليهم مسيطر إلا من تولى وكفر فيعذبه الله العذاب الأكبر إن إلينا ثم إن علينا حسابهم. الله أكبر. الله لمن حمده الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى والآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى أهدك فيما ووجدك الله لمن حمده
ربنا لك
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر
الله
الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi. Want to talk about thank you for having us and for the community for hosting us for Jumu'ah. Inshallah, we have an exciting announcement from Miftah that starting this September, in collaboration with the NCWS community, we'll be starting a weekly program called Miftah Life with NCWS, inshallah, which will be a weekly education program. We meet every Wednesday night with Sheikh Hassan, Sheikh Imam, inshallah, Alhamdulillah, and as well as Sheikh Hassan and University from the Miftah will be coming every Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. to cover a kind of so every Wednesday, 6 to 9 p.m. starting 14 on the community classes to the Medina Center attached to the University of Credits, working alongside the brothers and sisters in the community. We wanted everyone to wanted to encourage everyone to look into it. Share the word about it.
Usually as well that was something
Welcome to NCWS. Please do make dua to Sister Aisha is more than a lot because the way I did her all that get rid of sense. Give it the highest levels of general planning. Reminder, as you did here, we do have a collaboration. So check that out. I made the love inshallah. That's this Wednesday. It will be at Google here. The first is here at 7:30. That'll be the follow-up. And then the second one will be 9:30 at the business point. We'll start 30 minutes.
Are you doing I'll be okay. So I'll see you guys. You know, yesterday,
Wala.
Yeah.
Oh, the baraka is crazy. Everybody leaving in the back now.
Oh yeah, that's true.
I'm double fine.
Okay, I'm done.
I had a good I don't like to speak. Hello, it is too much.
Very interesting. इस तरह को avoid कराना, right? He has not answered any. Right. अब Sabrina से this सवाल वाला point है वहाँ इंडिया आने
Yeah, you have to, yeah. Yes. But it's also it's the time yeah, that's why I mean, it's like what you guys are doing. It's not like, I mean, you can say hi. But you over there. So say hi. If you stand the other side, you can say hi. Camera the other side, yeah. Just go there and say hi. Just video, man. Say hi, you see. Yeah.
105.
Did you say hi?
105. Like that was like 8,000 feet of high. Yeah, 8,000 feet of high. That's you see like something.
We should wait.
Now you like
I mean that's really you know I like my
67-year-old guy. Obviously, you're going back and forth about the president. They're back, and you're talking to them all place.
yes, you know, I mean, in a much smaller scale, but like when you go age we not watch people that are by this.
It's good to get your. But yeah, no, I'm very happy.
When you see all those.
A lot of like. Empathy all goes up to the greatest thing. But yeah, no. Let me know. Like, I got my series. Yeah. Use that. Yeah, and so he was very like director. Yeah. Well, like, he has to go to like.
हम लोग का नहीं और सेम ही दोनों का फॉर्मेट
Yeah, no, yeah, no, like, Abraham is like super. You go to a it's like easy.
because